Will Fallout ever become available on the Nintendo Switch? It certainly wouldn't be Bethesda's first game to come over to the new console. Skyrim, Doom, and soon Wolfenstein 2 are of their games currently available for the Switch. But what about Fallout? With the monstrous success of the latest installment, Fallout 4, you'd think it would make perfect sense to send that success over to the Switch, right? Well, yes, I agree, and that's why I think we will eventually see Fallout on the Switch. But let's take a closer look. To answer this question, I've decided to break the video up into 3 categories. 1. Which Fallout game will Bethesda and Nintendo decide to bring over and why? 2. How to make the game work on the Switch in terms of memory and performance? And 3. When could we expect to see this happen? A quick disclaimer before we jump into the video. I just want everyone to know that this is not purely factual. This is speculation, opinion, and research. This information is not coming from Nintendo or Bethesda. So which Fallout game will we expect to see for the Switch? My best guess that's probably going to be Fallout 4. Obviously, right? I mean, it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense to bring Fallout 3 to the Switch first, considering the game isn't getting any newer, and its archaic first-person shooting is just not what most people want to see nowadays. Obviously, from a hardcore Fallout fan's perspective, you don't really care so much about that because it's truly about the story, but think about it. Many people who would buy a Fallout game on Nintendo Switch have probably never played a Fallout game before, and 3 isn't exactly, at least graphically and mechanically, the game you would want to introduce a brand new audience to your series with. Moving on to New Vegas, I don't really see that happening yet, not because of how the game runs, but because you would have to get into the whole Bethesda Obsidian argument thing, and I don't really see the two of them being able to agree on anything. As far as the Fallouts from before 3, even though they are good games, I don't really see the point in bringing those to the Switch as your first port. Maybe after you release the 3D ones, then maybe make them available as digital downloads. But again, is that really the way you want to introduce Fallout on the Switch from a purely business perspective? So I'm going to go with Fallout 4. Just because of how successful the game was, it just makes sense financially, and also from a performance standpoint. Fallout 4 might have not been the ideal Fallout game for some hardcore fans, but it sure ran much better than its previous installments and is by far the best working 3D Fallout game. Category 2. How can we make this work as far as memory and performance goes? As we all know, Fallout 4 is a decently large game. Even without any DLC, it takes up to 32.2 gigabytes on my Xbox One. Yet Nintendo Switch cards can only hold a maximum of 32 gigabytes. At least for now. We know Nintendo is supposed to have 64 gigabyte game cards by the second half of 2018. However, according to The Verge, Nintendo Life, The Wall Street Journal, PC Mag, and numerous other sources, Nintendo will be delaying the release of the 64 gigabyte game cards until 2019 because of, quote, technical issues. But with the delay aside, this does give us some promising news. This means that we might not have to cut content from the original game. And if the 64 gigabyte game cards come out and Fallout 4 decides to pull the trigger on the port, you might actually be able to fit all of Fallout 4 and its DLC on just the cartridge itself. But if they have to cut things from the original game, my bet would be that it's not going to be actual content, but probably things like lessening draw distance and reducing some textures, which at least in my opinion isn't really a big deal. But what if that doesn't happen? What if there are massive issues regarding storage and performance even on the 64 gigabyte cards? There are still other options we can consider. Let's say that the game can't fit on either card for some reason. They can always max out the space on the card and require the remaining content to be downloaded, which they would obviously provide for you free of charge upon purchasing the game by giving you some sort of download code. Though the issue there is that it might be more than 8 gigabytes, which is the current standard storage space on the Switch without buying an additional micro SD card. But again, even if that was an issue, you could always just buy an additional micro SD card. You can purchase some that hold up to a maximum of 400 gigabytes, which is absolutely insane and will run you an equally insane amount, or you can just buy some that are 32 gigs for like $12, which should more than suffice. As far as performance goes, I mean, I know Skyrim came out in 2011, and it is not as complicated as Fallout 4, and I hate always making this comparison, but Skyrim ran great on the Switch, and I don't see why Fallout 4 wouldn't be just as good, or at least 90%. Even at 90%, I'd still take it any day of the week. What would be better than portable Fallout? Then again, if Fallout 4 is just way too complicated, Skyrim's success still leaves a lot of promise for a well-done port of New Vegas and Fallout 3. So all of that said, I don't think there will be any issues with fitting Fallout 4 on the Switch, or how it will perform, whether it's getting it all on one card, or acquiring DLC, or having a 90% of the way there Fallout. I do not foresee any of that being an issue. So, the big question, when can we expect to see Fallout 4 on the Switch? My best approximation would be sometime in either mid to late 2019 or early 2020. I personally think they're going to wait until the 64 gigabyte game cards come out so they can maximize performance and make it the best it could possibly be. Again, basically because they want new potential players to experience their series at its best, which makes total sense. Of course, we would all like to see it happen much sooner than that, but I just don't see it. Perhaps I'm completely wrong, which I honestly hope I am, and maybe they'll announce it this year, or maybe even bring Fallout 3 or New Vegas over first. I think that would be equally as awesome. Here's to hoping I'm wrong. So that pretty much does it. I tried to keep this as concise as possible while still trying to get the main points across. I hope it all makes sense. I had to spend a pretty good amount of time making this video, so if you liked it, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. I also stream on Mixer, so if you want to stop by one of these days and hang out, please feel free. The link will be in the description below. If you have any other ideas, agree or disagree about any of this, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Until next time, thank you.